Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is G. Cole, and welcome to Homegrown, where I get to share with you some good music while talking to some great people. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do, so we can keep you updated when new material is available. We will be posting new episodes bi-weekly. Also, check out the website Homegrown with G. Cole to listen and for all things homegrown. We're also very, very interactive. Please follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook at MyGCole. Ladies and gentlemen, I got a guest in the building. Some call him the encyclopedia. Some call him the music book. A brother that's passionate about the music. Always on top of the information. Got his finger on the pulse of the business. From then till now. Open up a microphone. Welcome, brother.
Alright, me there, I know J. Cole.
Welcome to the Bad Cave, man. Welcome to the Bad Cave. Welcome.
Yeah, give thanks for there. Thanks for having me still, you know.
Pleasure, brother. Pleasure. I'm so pleasure. It's indeed a pleasure. I pay attention to your program, Star, and just overall your commentary when you talk to folks about the music and just so knowledgeable. That not come every day. That's a passion, right? So where that come from?
Boy, I want to say it's so like a cliche, but it's an inborn thing.
Okay.
I've just always had a passion for knowledge, period. And so anything I'm passionate about, I pursue the depth of it. And I was musically inclined from birth.
Right.
So it is just natural for me to dig deeper and deeper and deeper until I get to the root of it, if possible, you know.
Right. And I guess having back then you have to go dig into the library and actually meet with some people and talk to some OGs and whatever. Now you have access via internet and stuff like that. But how accurate you find that information? Do you find yourself in situations where the information that you get from the so-called source and information you get from Google, the other source, there's a difference in the air normally?
Very much. A lot of times when I go digging for information, what I find, I already know it's not accurate right off the bat.
I understand exactly what you mean, sir. It's a whole heap of that to go on. But the other thing too is you have some of these, I always say you have Bob Marley, mechanic, brother, friend, husband, wife, cook, gardener, where you can't tell him say he wasn't there,
right?
And he didn't add at least one word in the song. We know everything, right? So no matter how much research you do, his information 9 times out of 10 is laden with some inaccuracies too. You know what I mean? Some frivolity. You know what I'm saying?
And even when you speak to the artists themselves, people who were there, they tend to not remember details accurately. And someone was just kidding me last week that they've seen me correct artists about their own information.
Bam. And it's probably true. But you know what, still? You do have some people who genuinely don't remember. And you have some people who, it's hard to remember fake information, So when information they give from man is never accurate.
Especially when the information is 50 years ago, too.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you're going to make up some stuff, make sure your memory good or you got some archives. You know what I mean? I dig that, though. Because it's always, I feel like knowledge is something that we as a people, we as an industry, we don't value enough. You know what I mean? People just feel like they can just get by just knowing a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But a person like you is like, you're almost like a musical historian. It's like, but it's not just about the craft and getting it out there. Like you said, it's a passion. It's innate. It's a come from birth, from back in the day.
Well, the thing is this. I also do a lot of research on like R&B music, for example. And it's very easy to find information on R&B. You can find the very day the song was recorded and stuff. In reggae music, you can't find that. Yeah, I have asked producers, what year was this released? Because it's not on the label.
Right.
I think it was,
And they realize why certain things they line in order, why the publishing don't work out right and whatever, because you don't have the info.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have some people right now in 2019, they're even being told that they didn't write the song. You know what I mean? A whole lot of them things are going on right now.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, it was about maybe 3 years ago. I had one of these classic CDs and updated my library. And when I'm putting in the information, I don't just have song title and artist. I also have songwriter, producer, and all of that. And looking at the credits, I know that the writing credit wasn't correct.
The writing credit you were seeing on wow.
In the sleeve, in the CD sleeve.
Wow.
So, as you mentioned, as you alluded to the technology we have today, I DM'd the artist. And without telling him what I was doing, I just said, who wrote such and such a song? And he said, I did. And I said, well, according to this CD I have in front of me, there's a different name there.
Wow. And that I can imagine that happens way more often than we even know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the artists don't even know, because some of these compilations that come out, some of these, best stars, you know what I mean? These essential volume 1 through 119, they're not the ones putting them out.
Yeah. And I've also seen incorrect writing credits writing credits going to Jamaican artists who are covering non-Jamaican songs, because whoever is putting the record out doesn't realize it's a cover.
Right. Wow. That's either because they just didn't do the due diligence, or the song that bad. Is like Maxi Priest smash over a Cat Stevens thing. People forget about Cat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that can happen. But as a person that's doing the documentation, you have to connect it.
And I've found that a lot of the songs I thought were originals, Jamaican songs, were not.
Yeah.
Because Jamaican artists from the 60s until now have done an incredible job of taking an obscure song and making it their own.
Yeah.
That even sometimes the writer might not even recognize.
Somebody told me once, because I remember, again, being in Jamaica, seeing a lot of these R&B artists come through, you know what I mean, get them to vacation in Ocean. And somebody told me, I don't know if it's rumors or whatever the case may be, that Brian McKnight came down there and heard a Sanchez version of theme song on the pan. Yo.
I can believe it.
And he's like, he couldn't even be mad. He's just like, yo, that brother, yo, bad. You know what I mean?
I can believe that. And I think it probably happens way more often than we hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of them, they just don't want to, they don't see the need to take it to the legal system, because we're going to really get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the amount of units that reggae is sold, by the time they pay their lawyers, there's nothing for them to get.
Yeah. It's just protocol.
And there's one famous case, where it was worth it. And that was in 1982, the number one selling record in the Netherlands. Outsold everybody. Outsold Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie.
Wow.
J.C. Lodge, Someone Loves You.
Oh, wow.
That was gold.
Right.
And it was the number one record in the Netherlands for 1982. The problem was the proper writing credit was not on the record.
So the writer never got the proper credits.
Right. And the producer, who credited himself as the author of the song, was sued, and that's how the great Joe Gibbs went out of business.
So they didn't sue J.C. Lodge, they sued Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, because it was his name that was on the record. And the funny thing is, when I researched the various pressings of that record, the Jamaican press says adapted.
Yeah.
The American press incorrectly credited Charlie Pride, who's the original singer, but not the writer.
The writer.
Yeah.
I got you. So there's a bunch of erroneous.
But then the European press said Joel A. Gibson, which is we know as Joe Gibbs.
Right.
And that's where the record went gold. So
I know you didn't talk to Joe Gibbs about it, but do you think it was erroneous, or you think he submitted and said he was a writer?
Well, he does that. That's his
thing.
That's his MO.
Needless to say.
As a matter of fact, if you can find a Joe Gibbs record, a DJ record, where the DJ is given a writing credit and it's not Joe Gibbs and or Errol Thompson listed as the writer, let me know, because I haven't found one yet.
Every single solitary one, he credits himself as a writer.
That's a DJ tune.
Wow. Oh, that's a DJ. He gives the singers them thing.
For the most part,
right.
But sometimes he doesn't.
And especially,
as in the case of the J.C. Lodge, Someone Loves You, Honey.
Wow.
He listed himself as the writer on the European press. And the Jamaican press said adapted.
Right. That's crazy. Julian, big up yourself. Julian says, what's up, Marlon?
Hey, Julie.
Who this now? Ed Rob, well, hi, Marlon. Disclaimer, this is Joanna Marie. I was able to give up. Trouble woman that, you know. Be a trouble, John Marie, you know. Be a trouble, be a trouble, be a trouble. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm just having a blast talking to Marlon right about now, because a lot of times there are people within your midst that have a wealth of information and you just don't get the opportunity to sit down and chop it up with them. Your show, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about your show. How long you been? Because your show is like a properly, carefully curated show. You are one of maybe 2 or 3 people who, when I sit down to listen to your program, it's not just some music in the background. I feel like I'm gonna sit down and it's almost like a documentary, so to speak. You know what I mean? Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about your show. How long you been doing it?
Well, I've been doing this particular show since January 2015. And basically the idea, I call it Real Rockaz because the idea was to highlight rockers,
right.
You know, in this real estate. But it's kind of evolved since that, and I've expanded the playlist a little bit more and just to include a wider base of music. But the focus is still
Rockaz.
What it's called, Real Rockaz.
Cool, man. Cool. From 2015, January.
Yeah.
And you've been doing this show every week since then?
For the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah.
You know, with a vacation here and there.
Right.
I love it. What's the response? What's the most popular response you get from people? Do you get the same type of thing? Like, it's like, wow, the information.
Information is really, it seems like people tune in for the music, but they stay for the information.
I got you.
Because, you know, I get calls all the time that we don't hear this kind of thing anywhere else.
Right.
And this kind of program it's kind of like a dying breed. You don't see the younger, and I wish that some of the younger folks in the industry would take up this kind of thing and be passionate about acquiring the knowledge, 1, and 2, sharing it.
Right.
Because to me, that's part of the passion, is not just acquiring the knowledge, but sharing it to people who are interested in the information that I have.
Do you think that people feel like the people aren't interested, or they just don't feel like going to those lengths? Because, you know, we're in the fast food era.
Yeah.
We're in the era of immediate gratification.
Yeah.
We can't even listen to a song for 2 minutes, let alone the entire song and so forth. So I wonder if a lot of people have the information, not sharing information because they feel like the masses don't want it, or is it we're falling victim to the whole situation of just short-sightedness, so to speak?
I think it's a combination of both. I think there is some short-sightedness where, one, people don't want to put in the work. That it takes a lot of work.
I can imagine.
You know what's one of the most common things I hear from friends? Get a life.
Please don't, because if we get a life, we won't get information. We have, what I'm saying, you must have nothing going on to be doing all this research and what they're looking. Y'all are foul. Wrong, ladies and gentlemen, on the low Marlon, because I love the information that we're getting. It's very, very important. And to be perfectly honest with you, I wish that DJs and selectors would tune into your show. You know what I'm saying? You have those places where, you know, it's like the restaurants where the cooks go to eat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so forth. I think a lot of people who are on air should listen, because there's information, and not only that, but it's entertaining information. If I love something, I don't mind hearing about it. You know what I'm saying?
That's what
when I was a kid, I was into technology, but more so than just getting a gadget or whatever the case may be. I like the books. I could read about technology and stuff like that. If you're passionate about the thing, it's all around.
That's it.
Wow.
And that is why I brand what I do as edutainment, because it's a combination of education and entertainment.
I got you.
So that is really the whole aim and goal in that kind of sums up the whole intention, edutainment, because that's what it's all about. That's what Real Rockaz is all about.
Edutaining.
Yeah.
You know, I want to know is this. Someone like you, you're passionate about it. You love the music. A man like me, I love music from a consumer standpoint, right? I consume a lot of music, I buy a lot of music, and I just happen to share it with people. I don't consider myself a DJ, I'm a podcaster, but I'm willing to share what's in my headphone with you. That being said, if I like it, I probably ain't gonna share it with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not, I don't like everything. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now for you, is it more about the substance of the music and just sharing the culture, or do you find sometimes, well, if I really like that one, no, I ain't gonna research that one?
Well, I kind of fall into a little trap there because at one time that was my mindset. If I don't really like it, let it stay over there. But I come to realize and understand that what I like, my audience may. What I don't like, my audience may like.
And
sometimes I do play a tune that I'm not really feeling, but let me see how the people feel about it.
Right.
Because there were times, I remember, from as long as I know myself, I listen to the radio. And since childhood, sometimes I wonder how some of these songs become hit songs. Why do people like these songs, And I still feel that way sometimes now. And so because of that, I have learned not to take the masses' taste for granted.
Right.
And so as long as something is well produced, you can tell when an effort has been put into something.
Right.
Whether or not it suits my taste or not, you can tell when the effort was put in to make a good product. And if I see that, I'll share it. I mean, the problem here also, though, is that I absolutely cannot play everything I get.
Right.
I receive way too much music.
Right.
And I broadcast twice a week.
Right.
For 3 hours.
Right.
So I have to cherry pick the tunes that I will play.
Right.
And sometimes I fall into a dilemma. And I have to say, well, this one or this one. I got to share this one because I can't play them all, And if there's something that, maybe not.
Yeah.
I got to kind of go through a process of selecting those.
Right.
But there's some songs that you hear from day one.
And
I just know.
Yeah.
The first time I heard Trouble by Romain Virgo.
Yeah,
That's a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, from the first drum roll, that was a hit for me.
I completely agree. There are many songs where there are a few songs that I didn't think were going to be hits and they actually became hits. You know what I mean? But most of the ones that when I heard it, I said, yeah, man, that's gone. Oftentimes it made it. Where I think I'm most accurate is pointing out the ones that ain't gonna be a hit.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's
I think I'm very accurate.
Accurate.
Empress Unique, big up yourself. What's going on? Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Empress Unique.
It's again, it's always good sitting down and talking to somebody like yourself because I think right now, you remember when the IT boom came in?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? When everybody was every school and everybody was going to school for IT.
Oh yeah.
I feel like maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago, that was a music thing where everybody now wanted to be an artist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't honestly think that majority of the people out there really are as passionate and love it as much, as well as it's not the artistry that they're in love with, it's the possibility of stardom.
Yeah.
And
I think technology has made that very easy.
Cheapened it, if you think.
Yeah. The average person can now make their bathroom their voicing booth and their bedroom can be their control room
and oftentimes it sounds that way too.
Exactly. And people don't like it when you tell them that. But there was one instance, honestly, some years ago, someone submitted a song, and I said to the person, "Brethren, this sounds like it was recorded in your bedroom."
What I'm saying?
And he says, "Yeah, it was."
At least he was honest. He wasn't upset though, right?
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
And you know what? And I actually suggested that, pay some musicians.
Yeah, to get it done.
Save some money. I know it's expensive.
Right.
Save some money and pay some musicians. And he did. And the end result was good. And I supported him when he did that.
I wish more people would take. Clive, welcome to the party. Always good to see you. Clive says some music takes more listening and to be liked and appreciated and accepted. You know what? You're absolutely right. It's no different from food. It's no different from alcohol. Whatever. Certain things are. It grows on you. And I tell people this all the time. There are many songs that I really love now, that when it just came out, it was just for me. You know what I mean?
That's
it doesn't
true.
mean that it was
true.
I have never gone from not liking a song to like it. I've just gone from thinking the song was okay to loving it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And I've experienced that many times as well.
Yeah, but if I didn't like it from the get-go, it's never come out of that bin. It doesn't mean that I don't listen to it,
Right.
Because sometimes I listen to songs, just it's like Clive saying, some music takes more listening. I have listened to songs over and over, trying to like it. Especially if I know the artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You send me a song and I'm trying to acquire the taste for it. I'm listening over and over, but it just it's like liver. You know what I mean?
yeah.
No matter what happened back in the day, no matter how much liver you try to eat, I ain't feeling it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But here's another thing I see. Social media has now become the venting forum. You know what I mean? The place where people vent.
Yeah.
And the other day, there are people who Empress Unique, say I make fun of me, too dope personality. And you put the dope in caps because I'm always saying dope. I know you're making fun of me, but it's okay. It's okay. People are venting about their music not getting played.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you have the same experience, but 9 times out of 10, right? When because I personally feel like there's not enough space for every hit potential song or potentially hit song to become a hit.
Yeah.
There's just not enough space for
Right.
it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
However, it doesn't mean it's not a bad tune.
Right.
It just wasn't a hit because it never reached where it's supposed to reach.
Yeah.
Commercially, it wasn't a hit, but cult-wise, it was.
Yeah.
Now, I do see people come up with songs and they're like, here's my music and whatnot. And if you send me the song, I'm going to really feel the song that kind of way there, then people start taking it personal. That's why I do not like when people ask me my opinion. I always say, send me the song, and if I dig the song, I'm going to play the song. But I hate it when people ask me for your opinion, because normally when they're asking for your opinion, what they're asking you to say is you like the song.
It's for your approval.
It's for your approval. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Because I know you said you get a plethora of music coming your way. So I know you got to be dealing with that mess. How is it for you to deal with stuff like that?
Well, to be honest, I just be honest. Not to overuse the term being honest, but to be honest, I just be honest. If I like the song, I'll tell you I like it. If I think it needs some work, I'm going to say that,
Right. If you think it need a dash away,
Me, I go say that. I might not use those exact terms,
but you're going to say what needs to be said.
And you know what? Honestly, I've had people come back and say, you know what? I appreciate your honesty because, I've had the ears of other people in the industry, and some of them are telling me the same thing. And I'd rather you tell me that than to have a yes man around me saying, boy, the tune bad, knowing that.
I've had that. I've had people come back and say the same thing. I listened to what you were saying, and I went and I checked it out, and I also, same thing, listened to other people, and I got the same feedback. But those people who come back and say that, they never came off offended from the get-go. The people who were offended from the get-go, no, I've never had them come back. I've never had them come back and say, well, you were right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Never had that happen. But the people who were open to criticism from the get-go, it hurts a little bit, because that's like somebody telling your child's ugly.
Yeah, that's
you know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Like, this baby, you just
the song is their baby.
Exactly. And so you go around your baby, your brand new baby. Hey, look at my baby, and people are like, look smart. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, because I've had artists tell me that, because I've asked artists, you have a song in your catalog that's like your favorite, and they'll tell me. That's like having children and asking me which one is my favorite,
Everybody got favorite kids. Don't let them lie to you. Everybody got a favorite child. Don't let them tell you nothing. If you got one, then it's a different thing. Everybody's got a favorite child and a least favorite child. And everybody's just floating around in the middle. So they can say whatever they want to say, all right? He said, Clive, say, I'm not feeling it. To be honest with you, I'm not feeling it. The thing is, and I don't know if it's an artist thing, because artists are ridiculously sensitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true too. And that is why it is recommended in the industry to have someone other than the artist deal with people like us.
Yeah. Empress Uni says, well, I will continue to ask you because I value your opinion, Sir Marlon. You're so right, to be honest. Honesty is very important. Very important, especially if it's artists that you dig, and artists that you have respect for.
I feel like if I'm not honest with an artist or producer or whoever, because the producers come to me also.
Right.
I feel like if I'm not honest with them about how I feel about a particular track, I'm wasting their time, I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't have a lot of time to waste.
Yeah, time's precious. I am a lot more concerned when a producer comes to me with something that is off versus the artist. Because again, an artist is just an artist. They're just passionate about what they do. They just want to make some music. But I think some producers have some lying ears. Either some lying ears or they're going based on what their accountant says, which is pretty much charge him, produce a thing, and send him out the door, right? Because I've had producers come to me with music, and I look at them and I'm like, really? You should not come to me with this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the artist I can see with, because he's just an artist.
Yeah.
A lot of times what you hear in your head and what ends up coming out are two different things. But in between the two lies passion, same way, and love and attachment to that song.
Yeah, true.
But a producer is a person that's putting those ingredients together, and he's on the end of it that's listening. So he should be able to be like, and I'm not talking about a song that's not a hit. I'm talking about something that's bad.
The issue is also that a lot of the producers are financiers, really. So they don't necessarily have the ear.
Just the budget.
Right. You know. or they might not be able to listen to something and says, tighten up this or fix that.
Right.
You know, and a lot of people who we credit as producers, we mentioned Joe Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
He's notoriously, he's labeled as a producer, but what he really is an executive producer. He's a brilliant one.
Right.
Because he knows how to pick the hits.
Right.
You know, and he knows how to market his stuff. And, you know, and that's what he did. He picked what was released, what is to be released, and he handled the marketing and the distribution and the publishing.
You know who else I think that they say was like that too is guy from Trojan. Can't remember his name.
Lee Gopthel?
No. Trojan. Is it Trojan? Might not be. I'm gonna remember in a second and tell you, but there's a couple of producers like that in especially in Jamaica. You know where it happens a lot too? In hip hop, where a lot of them are the financiers, and what they're really supposed to be on those credits are executive producers.
Right, true.
But because they are the financing part, and they'll be able, nobody argues with the money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's pretty much, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And they have the producers in, and the real producers sometimes don't get credit.
They don't get credit.
And the executive producer, just Mr. the financer, as we call him, gets all the credit for it.
Right.
And that's how we end up with a lot of things. I have here the record Jury threw out Baltimore by the Tamlins, but it became a hit a few weeks later. Here's the thing. That happens a lot, you know what I mean? Where people are wrong.
It does.
How many times have a record come out and somebody says, I'm not digging the B-side, and the B-side is what becomes a hit?
That's right. It's happened a lot. Berry Gordy did not want to release a Marvin Gaye record, the What's Going On. He didn't see the potential in that song, but Marvin was so upset.
Right.
Just to appease him, Barry said, put the record out.
Right.
And what happened to What's Going On?
Smash. Tupac had the same thing with Brenda's Got a Baby.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
That's another classic example.
So it's a bunch of classic examples. But at the end of the day, Jack Ruby, got to big up Jack Ruby, legendary. I'm a Wochi man. Jack Ruby's a Wochi man.
Oh, yeah.
Spent a lot of time there, influenced by Jack Ruby. Here's the thing, though. Because in anything, stats are crazy. People pull stats for pretty much validate whatever they want, the argument, right? And there's a stat for everything.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the B-sides that became hits, right?
Yeah.
That pales in comparison to the B-sides that did not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It pales in because we talk about the Marvin Gaye, we talk about the Brenda's Got a Baby, and I could tell you other Michael Jackson had one of them too with You Are Not Alone. You know what I mean?
That's a good one.
Never thought it was going to be a hit.
Yeah.
But those are a few. And when I say a few, a bunch of records.
Yeah.
But they pale in comparison to the ones that the producer said, nah, and the artist fought for it, and then the producer caved, and it flopped.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But a lot more of that happened. But of course, to substantiate our argument, we'll always say, that happened.
Yeah.
And it could happen
and we'll use that as our point of reference.
That's our point of reference. But you said something earlier, but when it comes to quality production, because a lot of times, and it doesn't matter how, we all have our tastes. I like quality production.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to, you see, if it's properly, I love live musicians.
Oh, yeah.
So as soon as live instrumentation, properly mixed, properly mastered, a nice song, where it's written right. Because a lot of time we sit down and we listen to a bunch of, Dennis Brown's my favorite artist all time.
Yeah.
Me
too, we have that thing covered.
You know what I mean? You can't go wrong with D Brown. But on every D Brown song when me love was a hit.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a quality song.
Yeah.
Because in my eyes, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, A hit has nothing to do. A hit is not about a good song, you know.
And you know, I was going to bring up that point,
Right,
because you have some D Brown songs. The lyrics not say nothing.
No,
You know?
you got some Bob Marley songs and lyrics not say nothing, but that's blasphemy to say that. You know what I'm saying? Do not call me. All right.
Yeah.
But it is true. It not say nothing, but it
When you
damn
talk
good.
about the arrangement, the vocalizing of Dennis Brown, the Crown Prince, you
Yeah.
know, the way he sings,
Yep.
you know, the tone,
You love it.
the beat, the flow, everything is right. The mix.
Yep.
When you mix when all the ingredients are right, it's like cooking stew.
Yeah. It's proper.
Yeah,
It
the
tastes
right amount of
the smell
this
right,
and a little bit of the
spicy.
right amount of that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And on top of all of that too is we talk about again hits. What I would like artists to realize is this, especially when they're not funding their own stuff, right? It's one of them scenario where it's no different from me coming up with a business or an invention or something that to me is going to be the next best thing, the next big thing. So now I go to an investor, and the investor has to evaluate this with their team and see if I need to put the money behind this, right?
Right.
A lot of times what you're pushing just ain't connecting. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And and you're looking at it from the standpoint of, hey, let me do me. Let me be an artist. Let me do this and that. But you're not gambling with your money. You're gambling with mine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think a lot of times people don't. I don't think it's not a matter that they don't get it, because you know when artists become responsible, when it's time to spend their money.
Their money.
You know what I'm saying? When it's time to spend for their money, you know, they get very responsible.
And speaking of spending money too, I think that's also an ingredient in making a hit,
Oh yeah.
because you have to spend good money to pay the right musicians,
Right.
Quality musicians,
Right.
not just your brethren who can play a 2-card,
Right?
You
Two
know.
and a half.
right? You have to pay for proper facilities, a good studio that has a good sound.
Right.
You know, you might have to pay a good producer who knows what he's doing. You have to pay to have your tune properly mixed, properly mastered,
Yeah.
and have all the right ingredients. And then if you really want to do it correctly, you put together a budget for marketing
Yeah.
and promotion.
Right.
Because that is how hits are made by big companies. Because as you alluded to earlier, some tunes just have to grow on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you do that?
Repetition.
Repetition,
Right.
marketing, and promotion. Because the amount of tunes I get, I can't keep playing the same tune for 2 months.
Right.
You know, when I'm getting 50 every week, you know.
You know, it's amazing you mentioned that. We had this conversation last week when it comes to playing songs for the artists, right?
Yeah.
Artists, there are quite a few things that are prerequisites. At the end of the day, I don't know of any song that has ever broken mainstream, did well, become a hit without a push.
Yeah.
But what they do is we sell the organic story. And I try to have the conversation with artists a lot of times. The story that you're being sold is the organic story. Well, I was in a basement, you know what I mean? And somebody just happened to pass by and hear me singing and love my voice. And then they took me to the studio and we recorded this one song for $50 and it just made its way out there. Never happened. Nonsense. You know what I'm saying? It's just a story that sounds cool and sells a product. The reality of it is this. You had a connect who had a connect, you know what I mean? Who put you in the right place and you were with the right producers. Somebody's paying for it somehow, you know?
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of organic
organic
but they're
ones.
so few and so far between.
Right. You're going to have to look for that.
It Wasn't Me Like Shaggy was one notable example.
Of a song that's organically went.
Yeah, because a very popular DJ in Hawaii heard the record and really liked it, so he played it on his show and the response was off the chain. And because it broke in Hawaii first.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that song because it did. I spoke to who was Rayvon was in here because I was talking to them about, you know, it was him and a couple other artists. And even that one, because I asked, what's the difference with that song and also Angel and some others? And you know what he said? The budget. So it picked up steam somewhere organically. Not saying that
Right,
doesn't happen.
right,
But
right.
for it to become that mainstream hit that
Yeah.
everybody's looking for,
Yeah.
the machine has to get behind
Has
it.
to,
Has to.
has to.
And here's the thing, just like everything else, it's like pushing a ball or pushing a wheel. It's the first pushes are tough enough until it picks up momentum. So a lot of times what people don't realize is this, the heavy spending comes early. After a while, then that part lightens up.
And then you
because
know
it's
what?
already
A
catch
lot
up.
of people get discouraged during that stage, not realizing how close they were. They were this close,
Right,
when they quit, when they turn around.
Yep.
But they just didn't realize it at the time.
A good engineer to collab said, "You're absolutely right. Speaking of engineers, he said a good engineer is necessary. Another big problem people are running into is sometimes I'm gonna say I have a producer when the truth is what he's got is an engineer. You know what I'm saying? Not the producer, but he's got an engineer.
No, I've had artists tell me, listen, when I voiced this tune, the only two people in the studio were me and the engineer.
Wow. But was he seeing the engineer as just an engineer? He was considered an engineer, his producer.
The engineer was just considered the engineer, but the engineer was actually acting as a producer. In actuality.
Right. Wow. This thing I call music.
Yeah.
This thing you call music.
And that's why I have learned, and it took me a while to accept it because I really didn't want to accept it, that I can't take what I read on a label at face value anymore. I can't take what I read inside a CD sleeve at face value anymore. I have to question anything. So sometimes, and artists, a lot of these artists know me by now. Sometimes when I actually catch up with an artist, I put them aside. Who wrote such and such a song?
Yeah. Total different answer from what's in the sleeve.
Yeah, I want to know. Sometimes I get the same answer, but a lot of times I get a different answer.
Right.
And sometimes I'm surprised. You know, I remember speaking with Papa Michigan a couple years ago from Michigan and Smiley.
Right.
One Love Jam Down, big hit for Michigan and Smiley, 1980. The writing credit on that record is the producer. So I asked Papa Michigan, you know, without giving him a clue what's in my head. I just asked him straight up, who wrote that song? And he told me it was a producer. And that was one of those rare cases where
It was wow.
he was confirming what's on the credit.
Because the normal response is, what? You mean something not getting a credit fees? It's crazy. And it's not a reggae thing, you know. It's not a reggae thing. It's not a dancehall thing.
It's not.
It's a music thing.
You know, and people would think that it is, but
it's not relegated to reggae music. Let me ask you this, because this is one.
As a matter of fact, before coming here, before you came on this evening, I just read an article about Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Yeah,
it's number one on the Billboard pop charts every year. Right.
Yeah,
and the man who wrote and co-produced the song with her is saying that she's not giving him credit. Everywhere she goes and gives an interview, it was her. She sat down around the piano and came up with a melody. And
yeah,
I just read an article this evening about it. So it's not limited to reggae music. That's something that's been going on. You know, the Sam Cookes and those people, you know, from the 50s and the 60s, they had to fight for their publishing.
Is it just about, because in a case like that, you have some of these people who, let's say, she's speaking and not giving him the credit, but in the paperwork, he's probably credited.
Yeah.
So my question is this. I see when it comes to hip hop and dancehall, people have an issue with what they call the ghostwriter, or whatever the case may be, right? Now, other genres, it was never a problem. It wasn't called a ghostwriter, it was just a writer.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're a singer and that's what you do.
Right.
And we're bringing the writers and the musicians.
Right.
Before, you know what I mean?
Right.
But now, like in a case like Mariah, and a lot of other people do that. What it is, what is it, do you think the real reason is why people claim, because on the paperwork they do it right, you know?
Yeah.
But they'll claim in the public eye that, no, I'm the one that's responsible for it. Is it just straight up ego, or is there some cult thing going on with the music industry where they're undervalued? They're valued a little bit less because they're not the ones that came up with that hit.
I think it's both.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah, especially with artists. Artists tend to have big egos. So a lot of time, and it's not just them that have the egos though. You know, so a lot of time it is the ego to make yourself look a little more important, or you know,
get a genius stamp.
Yeah, you know, that you'll find that I've known of artists who argued publicly about the authorship of songs. You know, where a record will come out, one person is listed on the writer, and another person. So, brethren, I never me and you sit down in front of.
Yep.
I never me and you sit down for Miss Matty step, man.
and I write the thing. I know you said just you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and you hear it from a lot of people. Again, anytime we talk about certain things, certain names we try to leave up because it's blasphemy. And I don't hold anything gospel because you never know I wasn't there.
Yeah,
But
right.
people even talk about stuff like a lot of things that Bob get credits for them saying never right.
I've heard that.
You've heard that too, right?
I've heard that. You have Lennon McCartney, another big one out there.
Right.
They say a lot of the songs credited to Lennon and McCartney is Lennon or McCartney.
Right.
But because they were contracted as a team,
Right.
the credit goes to them both.
Right. That's what some people don't realize too. The paperwork is, you see, contracts can turn something into something, you know.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody that they were telling me about a contract, and I was saying there's no such thing as a standard contract. You have industry standard to everything.
Yeah.
It's like Pro Tools is industry standard.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
It doesn't mean you can't use Logic. You know what I mean? People are actually putting out recordings right now that actually was based in GarageBand.
Right.
You know, but Pro Tools is industry standard. So you have certain type of contracts, certain type of things that they deem industry standard. But there's no such thing verbiage-wise that is standard. You do not have to accept anything. You know what I mean?
Any contract can be amended.
Anything can be amended. And what people don't realize is you can't say no.
Exactly. You can read a contract. If you care to. I would advise most people to hire an attorney to do it, or a paralegal. You know.
Yep.
And anything you don't like or agree with, you negotiate to have it amended or changed.
Yep.
And people tend to not do. People tend to don't even read contracts. You know.
That's what I was about to say. A lot of times the contract was never read because I've seen contracts that were not. Here's the thing. A lot of times what you're hiring in a lawyer is really a translator. You know?
Yeah.
Because verbiage is used to derail you and to pretty much confuse you. And here comes the attorney to translate this for you, right? To decode the matrix.
I know of situations, and you know, we're talking about name producers in the business, and songs that we know, records that we know, all-time classics, where a producer unknowingly signed over his rights to a song because he didn't read the contract. You just look at the paperwork, you see a dollar figure,
Right.
and you sign.
Right.
Not reading the part of the contract that says the distributor owns the music in perpetuity, meaning it's theirs, not yours.
Yep.
It's no longer yours. It's no longer yours.
Yep.
It's theirs. So whatever they're paying you, the dollars amount that you see, it looks great.
Right.
But that's all you're ever going to get.
In the wise words of Winston Francis, anytime you see that word, perpetuity, you carry to it. It don't matter what it is. I could have a child. If it shows up on the birth certificate, carry to an attorney, all right? Because what happens is people are tricking people with these contracts.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, too, people not even trick nobody. It's just a contract, simple right words, but you just never read it.
Just never read it, or you read it and don't understand it and you sign anyway.
Yeah.
You know, if you read a contract and you don't understand what does this part mean, and don't ask the person who you're negotiating with, what does this mean?
Yep.
You know.
Yep. I'm also a firm believer that anytime you say to somebody, let me go, because here's the thing, it doesn't matter what. I could be buying groceries. A lot of times I'd rather go home and read. I like to look at things in my environment.
Yeah.
That's why for when I was doing in corporate, I refused to go and interview somebody outside of the office. You know what I mean? I'd always, if it meant me flying them in, I'll bring them to my office and interview them.
Yeah.
Because I want you in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
My environment.
There you go.
I always feel like if you ever say to somebody, you know what? Let me take this contract home and read it just so I can have a thorough understanding. If you ever get a no or anything from them, it's the first sign that you need not sign this contract. Anytime somebody says, nah, you got to sign it right now, right?
Yeah.
That's the first sign of you about to get screwed.
Yeah.
No lube.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
So people need to pay attention to certain little signs. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. When you're getting screwed, 9 times out of 10 it says screwed. Somehow, somewhere. Somehow, somewhere it says, I'm screwing you.
You just have to read the
You just have to read the thing. You know what I mean? let's talk about charts, right? Because one thing I've had people ask me all the time, hey, won't you do a chart? And I said I would never do a chart. I would never do a chart because what I think it requires to do a chart is a lot of research.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day, charts were compiled by calling the music distributors because that was the only place where the stats were. So you'd call a VP, you'd call a tab, you'd call whomever and find out what was sold. Sometimes you might have to call the music store and find out what was sold.
A lot of the charts that I know of is back in the 80s, the 90s, even into the 2000s, it was the retailers, the record stores that provided numbers. These are our top 10 sellers this week. And
that's where the accurate data comes from. Because you can't even get it from the record label because the record label always fuzzy. It's always fuzzy math.
Yeah, right.
Always fuzzy math when it comes to record labels.
Right.
Now, in this day and age where the physical records aren't actually being sold as much, it's downloads now, right? Yeah. How does one do a chart and maintain some form of accuracy?
There are different formulas and different ways people do it now, with downloads and spins, and a certain amount of downloads is equal to a purchase, and formulas like that.
Right, almost like streaming formulas.
Yeah,
Is there right now? Is it a situation of let's get this chart as accurate as is possible, or is it possible to be accurate?
I think as accurate as possible right now. I think as we talked about the information, is just so much data out there. It's like you can't even get it all.
Right.
You can't even go to all the sources. There's not enough time to even do that.
Right.
So you kind of have to would select who your sources are, who you consider the most reliable sources. And these days it's the DJs, and because it's really more about popularity now than
not even sales.
Back in the day. So a lot of people who are compiling charts now, they're hitting up the networks and the fellow DJs and says, hey, what are you getting a response on?
Right.
What is being spun the most? And,
right.
Getting copies of playlists and see how many playlists a particular song appeared on for the week and stuff like that. These are the formulas that people have to go to because the sales data is just not there anymore.
It's not there. Now, even when it comes to playlists and kind of gathering that kind of data, right? When it comes to radio stations outside of the clear channel stations and major commercial outlets, when it comes to your local Caribbean radio stations, right? They're not normally playing what the people are asking them for. They're giving the people are listening to what they're playing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to some degree, and the reason why it is that way, because 9 times out of 10 to the DJs that are on the radio station are pretty much the DJs that play the club and at the session and at the dance.
Yeah.
You brought them on air because they're a personality with popularity, right?
Right.
So there is no, you may create a playlist because the FCC requires it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's not a situation where the playlist is a representation.
That's true.
Of what the people are listening to.
That's true.
So is there even any accuracy to that in terms of trying to compile data from your local radio station?
It's a tough job because you might have a chosen few who have the pulse of the people.
Right.
And then you have the masses who are just doing their own thing. And everybody is minding their own business in terms of, what the music, you don't have any continuity or, because, I grew up in New York City, listening to both urban and Caribbean radio. And even though most of the DJs on New York radio back in the 80s and the 90s were brokers. In other words, they purchased their airtime from the radio station to do whatever they wanted to. You still had the majority of them playing a lot of the same thing. So they were playing what was wanted by the people. They were playing what the people wanted.
Do people still call radio stations to ask for songs?
Yeah, but I don't see it happening as much. And the debate is on now as to whether radio is a dying thing or is it still here to stay. And I'm hearing both sides of the argument still.
Yeah. Because it's it's one of those things that you will never hear. Some people say, and I've heard the same person say two different things on two different days. You know what I'm saying?
Talking out of both sides of their
both
mouth.
sides of their mouth. One day they say, terrestrial radio is dead. It's done. It's gone. You know, it's the over. We're on the tail end of it now, right? And then on another situation, you ask them and they'll be like, oh, no. It's not going anywhere. Personally, I don't think radio is going anywhere. I think it's a format with which radio is received, in which radio that changes. People talk about internet radio all the time, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that the radio is now on the internet. It's the same radio station. When somebody says, well, radio stations will die, I think the brick and mortar structure will shrink.
Yeah.
Right? The physical outlet will shrink. The $1 million towers ain't going nowhere. They already paid millions of dollars for them, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing pretty much is, when you go online, the same major commercial radio stations that you listen to on the dial, they're the ones that are still the biggest online.
Online, correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
It's not like your regular internet station is ever going to eclipse them. They're still the major players.
Right.
It's just that now it's not about how they distribute the music. It's about how you listen to it.
Yeah, true.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
So that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. Radio ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
And the same person that's going to tell you today, so, well, radio is going to be dead, right? He ain't telling that to his customers. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I wonder when you say these things, I'm like, careful. I was probably looking to buy some airtime.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I always wonder when it comes to radio, do radio DJs and club DJs have the capability anymore to break an artist like they used to? I always say break an artist, I mean bust him.
Very few.
Yeah.
I think there are a few left. I still listen to New York radio a lot. And I think DJ Roy in New York is one such person still.
Yeah.
And he does both the clubs and he does the radio.
Right. It's Irish Jam, right?
Yeah. And he's one of those people. And Chris the Dubmaster.
Dubmaster. Chris. You know what's funny thing? When it comes to credibility, when you talk to the credible people, they always go right back around to the other credible people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Though every time I talk to somebody who I deem a credible source to have a conversation with about this industry, reggae, and who are the players and who can make an impact, they always go back to them two names. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
DJ Roy and Dubmaster Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're still in tune with what's going on in these New York radios.
Yeah. I mean, I've been listening to those guys since they've been doing radio. I used to always hear their names, because they were in the clubs. But when they started doing radio, they have influenced me in how I do radio.
Right.
So, and those before them. But I think those are two guys who still have that ability
to break an artist.
Wow.
Wow.
And then there are not many of them left.
Right.
I think a David Rodigan in the UK can still do that.
Can still break an artist?
Yeah.
So how come they're not doing it, though? Is it that they just choose not to? Or, they're just busy doing a whole bunch of other things, making money, so that they don't have no time for that?
I think one of the biggest problems radio people have, myself included, I'm sure you have the same problem, is filtering through all the stuff we get.
Right, I'm going to tell you something. I had somebody tell me that they're going to send me some music, right? For some artists. I mean, and I mean it in no discontent at all. It's just, I'm just doing the math. Somebody said they were going to send me some music. And they said, listen, it's a lot. I'm going to send you a couple of emails, so you don't have to go through them right now. You know what I'm saying? So I probably expected maybe I get like 5 or 6. You know what I mean? I've got 44. And then I got a couple more. So I'm up to like about 50, 55 right now. And they're all WeTransfers, which ultimately means each one of them have at least 8, 9 songs in it, right? So as a result of that, I just haven't opened one yet. It's like you look at it and it's like, oh, snap, man. It's like
because you have to take a day to like sit down. And when I had the time, I don't have the time so much now. I used to do that. I used to have a day. Okay, this is the day, and I have X amount of hours to filter through the music that I have. And then once I go through what I have, then I have to select, the best ones out of the batch, And then out of the best ones in the batch, I can't play all of those either. So then I have to cherry pick the ones I'm going to play from those. So it's like... And I think that's where the challenge lies, really, nowadays. We just have so much to go through. It's not like back in the day where, you might have 3-4 new records a week.
No, you get that every 15 minutes.
And then you say, yo, out of them, I that 1 year, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Different thing right now.
Yeah.
If I talk about fluidity, it's liquid right about now. Bless up, George. Well, go on. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, it is amazing. It is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, this whole business of music. I wonder oftentimes, here in South Florida, you know, one of the things that I've had a conversation with major producers is the fact that we don't really have a major clear channel station down here that supports reggae music, right?
True.
You have, and when you talk about clear channel stations, I'm talking about the Y100s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The hits 96. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't even know if you want to say 99 Jams or them, but let's, for argument's sake, we can put them as mainstream radio.
Yeah.
All right. So you have like a Hot 105 where there's a program on every Saturday night.
Yeah.
Probably 4 hours or whatever the case may be.
3 hours.
3 hours from, it was
10
to
to
1.
1. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the consistent one. And then of course there's 99 Jams.
Yeah.
Another similar situation where it's maybe 1 or 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Power 96 doesn't have any.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 outlets that we got.
Yeah.
And you're given, if you add the 2 up, it doesn't amount to 8 hours.
No, you know, a good friend of mine down here in South Florida, KC, from an Uptown Mixing.
Big up KC.
KC once said to me, these R&B stations that play reggae music need to realize that there is reggae music that was made in this decade.
Woo, that is so true.
And that's a good point, because
so true.
when they do play reggae, and I listen to Hot 105 a lot during my daytime hours on the job. They'll play a Bob Marley, they'll play an Action, Terror Fabulous, Nadine Sutherland, they'll play a Murder, She Wrote, you know, they'll play a Serrani, Playing Games.
A UB40.
Yeah, they'll play a Egyptian, Hold You.
Right.
But none of those songs were recorded in this decade.
I Shaggy.
Yeah.
I want Sean Paul.
Yeah.
You know? Oh my, Clive said, oh my, just imagine the amount of demos I've listened to at VP. I feel your pain, Clive. I feel your pain.
Oh man.
I feel your pain. EK says it's so nice to see the real Marlon Burrell in real life. He's real. A lot of people think you're a figment of imagination. First of all.
I'll give that. Yeah, well.
Like you're a logo.
Let it be known that I'm not a person who loves cameras. So maybe that's part of the reason.
Marlon is real. He's a real guy. I promise you, EK. I promise you. Music, the radio, the whole nine. we talk about radio because I feel like radio is 2 things. I think radio is the physical aspect of radio, and I also think radio is a verb. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can do radio.
Yeah.
Do you ever think, or do you think that on any of these commercial stations, you think there's place for a reggae format? Because let's go Hot 105, for example.
Yeah.
Right? The best variety of hits and oldies, right?
Yeah.
But 7 days a week they're on, and 7 days a week there are slots allocated to play. I don't think I hear much hip hop on Hot 105.
No.
But 99 Jams and Power 96, they all have those things. So Hot 105 plays the best variety of hits and oldies 7 days a week, except for that little slot that reggae has. 99 Jams is playing urban, you'd say urban contemporary probably.
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
Except for that little slot. And then of course Power 96 is urban radio.
Yeah.
All time.
Right.
Do you think ever our future going on these radio stations, there's anywhere in these radio stations for a reggae format, like a consistent reggae format where there's 2-3 hours a day that could be allocated to reggae music?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's been done in other markets.
Is it still being done in other markets?
In New York City, WBLS still has David Levy, I believe, on a Sunday evening.
And that's a clear channel station? Like mainstream commercial radio?
It's a mainstream, yeah. Yeah. WBLS is, actually WBLS when I was growing up was the urban station that would introduce the mainstream market to reggae music. And I credit them with breaking dancehall to the mainstream U.S. market.
Right.
You know, the late Frankie Crocker was on that station.
Right.
And I remember clearly the summer of 1989. I think that's when dancehall arrived in the USA.
Right. Via New York.
You had Telephone Love by J.C. Lodge, massive hit in the urban market, in the Caribbean market. But then it crossed over via WBLS, and it actually hit the R&B charts.
Right.
And by 1989, by the summer of 89, there were 3 songs that were in rotation on WBLS. And they were Sorry by Foxy Brown, One Blood by Junior Reid, and Life Is What You Make It by Colonel Might and Frighty out of the UK.
Right.
And I think that's when reggae arrived in the USA. And by the following year, Shabba Ranks was signed to Epic Records.
Right. Wow. So that's the impact that radio has had.
And that's when dancehall exploded, and then came the offshoot we call reggaeton.
Right. But that being said, though, because I think if the issues that the music business is encountering right now is not a reggae thing, sales are dropping in every aspect, right?
Yeah.
Music is selling still enough.
Yeah.
Not a fraction of what it used to.
Right.
And streams are replacing that, which to me I think is the worst thing to have ever happened to music. Is streams. You know what I mean? At one point I thought it was MP3s, but I've switched. It's now streaming.
Yeah.
Worst thing ever happened to music. Now, when we look at radio and how radio is formatted and how things are going, why do you think it is right now that I feel like reggae and dancehall has actually been kicked out of the mainstream formats in most markets? Because they can't say it's because the reggae music not sell, because they were never on the same scale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Reggae music, in comparison to hip hop, even when people were buying physical CDs, it was a fraction of the sales in comparison to most of what we call mainstream music.
Yeah.
So what is it, and why is it that you think that radio stations and radio in general have now become apprehensive about allocating a designated spot or a consistent spot to reggae or dancehall music?
Well, dancehall is easier to answer right now, because I believe the reason why we don't hear dancehall breaking on mainstream up until 10 years ago.
Content?
Not so much the content, but I think the beat has strayed away from the authenticity. It sounds a lot closer to the hip hop that they're already playing.
So why play fake hip hop if we got real hip hop?
Right. It's just like when you had some reggae bands from, Timbuktu playing something that kind of sound like reggae, but it's not really reggae. Why would a reggae DJ put that on their playlist?
Right.
You know? So it's kind of the same thing now
with dancehall.
With dancehall, because the beat has shifted from the authentic beats that we know that descended from the Kumina and the Pocomania and the straight reggae, and that evolved into what we now call a dancehall beat.
Right.
And it's kind of drifted more to the hip hop side. And just a few months ago, Danny Brownie was talking about the same issue, because his Filthy Rhythm was sampled by Nicki Minaj, and he's saying they're sampling a rhythm that I made in the 90s. Where are the rhythms now?
Yeah.
That
are there the rhythms that were made in the last 5-6 years that'll ever be sampled? Probably not, because they are already samples.
Right. And I also say the same thing about reggae rhythms also. Listen, I'm just gonna put this out there. And people might not like me saying this, but I'm just gonna put this out there. I like when a classic one drop reggae rhythm is remade or lick over or whatever you want to call it. And there's a place for it.
Right.
But I think it's too much.
Right. Because it seems to be all that's coming out right now. Either
there are rhythms that were originally made 50 years ago that are being made over today. And my question is, and I've asked this question on my show several times, where are the rhythms that are being made now that will be licked over 50 years from now?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have gone wrong. We have relied too much on the past. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that, because there is.
Right.
But I think we need to get back to the drawing board and start creating music from scratch, creating melodies from scratch, creating rhythms and bass lines and beats from scratch. Right.
That's so accurate. It's hilarious. No, Don Penn. Boom. 5 says.
There you go.
Exception reggaeton. You know what? You know what's crazy? But what you're saying right now really adds up to. They didn't take the reggae format from radio. We stopped making reggae music for radio.
And that's what it is. And people would try to say, oh, them a fight against the thing. No, it's not that.
Yeah.
And I think if there was more of what we had and what we were doing into the 90s coming on down the line, I think we would have more, because I'm revealing this publicly for the first time, but I've had conversations with some of those stations.
Right.
You know, they've had interest. And I just think that's part of the problem, is that we are not seeing the consistency.
Right.
One, and two, I think the other side of the equation also is us.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we're not knocking on the doors.
Right. We're expecting them to be opened.
Yeah.
Do you find that people have this? I think you're right. And the reason why I think you're right is because I see it even from the creative side. The creative side, in terms of people think that's our birthright. So somebody needs to come and find you.
Yeah.
You know, I have, it's like when we hear quality music that comes out from non-Jamaican people, right? I want to say quality, I mean great quality. But people feel like, yeah, but it's still not supposed to be accepted as much as ours because it ain't us.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's almost,
yeah,
I'm a birthright.
Yeah.
So realistically, you're supposed to be accepting what I'm giving you, even though I'm half-assing it, and they're giving you the right thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that stuff has been hampering us too. Go on, cat eye. The world is a cycle, brother. What goes around comes around. True. But sometimes you'll get left out of the cycle because all that's going to be coming back around is something from a past era. And I've always had that conversation within the last 20 years or so forth. Is there anything that'll be considered vintage? Because what we're doing now is tapping into vintage.
Yeah.
But 40 years from now, will what we're making right now be considered vintage, or will it just be dated?
And that's the question, you know, and that is what I'm trying. Case in point. Going out to any local event where you have a DJ spinning music. What are they playing? Back in the day, when you go to a dance, a party, or any event where there's a DJ spinning tunes, you would hear some of the most recent hits.
Right.
When I go out now, I don't hear the current songs being played. I hear, and I think that's another area in which we have gone backwards.
Right.
And all the DJs, for the most part, with the few exceptions, play the same thing.
Right.
You can tell what's coming next from any given DJ.
Yeah.
And back in the day, that's not.
But that's radio too.
And that's radio too.
It happens on radio too.
Yeah. And back in the day, that's not how it was. You used to be listening and like, I wonder what's next.
Yeah. Wonder what, and plus what this DJ is gonna play.
Yeah.
Because certain DJs were known for giving you something different. I'll tell you this. I pride myself and I make a concerted effort. It's not that I'm just digging in the box of obscurity and trying to find some records that nobody heard.
Right.
But my ear is not glued toward the traditional what's mainstream, what's on the radio, and what I hear in the dance hall.
Right.
And if you love music, your ear's not going to be geared there anyway, because that stuff's garbage.
Right.
A lot of times it's what got paid to be played, and the promotion's just right, and the money pull-ups are right. So now it's recurred. You know what I mean? So many times that's what's on the forefront right now. Right. So for me, you know, when I play most of the songs, I am actually amazed when somebody said to me, yo, I don't hear those songs on the radio. I'm like, for real? Because they're good songs, and they're songs that I'm listening every day, and I automatically assumed that people are playing those too. But when I now take a minute to go listen to radio, which I used to seldom, I do it a lot more now, just so I can see what's going on. But there's a time when I never listened to radio, right? I'd listen to internet stuff and podcasts only. But when I go now and I listen, I'm like, oh, so that's what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's when people got to dial into our Real Rockaz, right?
Yeah.
And get something different, because if not, you're getting an extension of the same thing wherever you go.
Now, here's one thing that doing the Real Rockaz program has taught me. That radio is also a dying art in Jamaica. And I know that because I visit Jamaica annually anyway.
Right.
Now there are some 30-something radio stations. When I lived in Jamaica as a child, there were 2 stations. We had RJR and JB.
And them's a radio diode.
Yeah. And then here comes Irie FM to
you
know, put that dent in the whole thing. That was
Love me some Irie FM.
Yeah. No, but that's also a dying art, because one of the most common feedback, I'm actually amazed at the amount of people that I hear from in Jamaica.
Yeah.
They say, Bridget, them tune and I play on radio in Jamaica. like, what?
Yeah. Hear that a lot.
And I listen to radio. I've been a radio junkie all my life.
Yep.
So I'm glued, whether I'm in Jamaica or elsewhere, I'm glued to what's happening on the radio. I am not impressed.
Well, I used to love radio. I ain't gonna lie. I used to love radio in terms of, and it wasn't just about the music that's being played. You know what I mean? It's a commentary. It's you know, there's some radio stations that have reached out to me and say, hey, they'd love me to come on and play music on there. You know what I mean? Because it's a little different. But I said to them, boy, have you listened to the program or what I do? Because there are some days when I come on and I play music, but 9 times out of 10, that's not all that I'm doing. Yeah. If I'm on for 2 hours, I might go off on it. You never know. You know what I mean? It may end up like, I'm on radio now.
I was going to say, tonight is a prime example.
I'm on the radio right now. You know what I'm saying? So, big up all my people listening at Royal Zion and his radio, and you, and all the people listening at homegrown.com. But homegrownwithgico.com. So, it is one of those things where I feel like that's what we miss. And that's what is missing from radio.
Definitely.
The physical structure of radio still exists. But I feel like doing radio is what we've gone away from.
Yes. And there's a reason why presenters are called radio personalities. And we're missing a lot of personality from the personalities.
Right.
You know, we don't see that. We just hear music.
Yeah.
And 10, 15-minute mix, and you heard blah, blah, blah. And that's even if they tell you what you heard.
Because they don't tell you who
I remember when I started doing college radio in the 90s. I started doing college radio in 1993. They used to have stickers. The record companies used to put stickers on the records and the CDs. It says, say it when you play it. You know, just reminding you that when you play it, just tell the people what you're playing. Yeah.
That is something that it drives me bananas when I go onto some radio stations and they want to put, because my thing is this. Some people say, well, you can play a couple songs and then announce them after. Me not do that. You know what I'm saying? I will, I don't like to talk over records.
Right.
So what I'll do is I'll make the record play.
And that's another pet peeve of mine that I
when the radio, you talk out half of the thing, half of the record, and you don't play more than 45 seconds of the record anyway. So when y'all talk out, it's crazy to me. But it's like Hope says she agree with you. Clive says the simplicity of older reggae is now hits for non-Jamaicans. That is true. That is very, very true, and that's something I'm gonna get to in a minute too. But when it comes to actual radio, playing the songs, I've had radio stations ask me to just play songs, right? I intentionally don't go learn for mix. I intentionally use what I use because I don't want to be that guy that's just mixing songs and you have 20, 30 minutes go and it's just a mix. I don't like it. Right? I feel like the purpose of radio is to put the music out there and educate the public as to what it is.
Right.
It's a marketing tool.
Yeah.
No different from how you want me to be explicit when I do the commercial.
Right.
Because when we do the commercial, you want me to talk about what the product is, how much it costs, where they can go get it, right?
Exactly.
So why can't I do that for the artists when the song's played?
There you go.
And so that's a battle that I fight with radio all the time. And it's not one radio station. And sometimes we'll say to ourselves, well, overseas, because we love to credit the UK. I think the UK has had this relationship with Jamaica that we just adore them a little too much sometimes. You know what I mean? So we credit the UK for everything good. You know what I mean? Good quality music. Honestly, I get some crap from the UK sometimes. Anyways, different argument. But the thing is, I've had stations it's not like a Jamaica thing. It's not an America thing. Right. I've had stations in the UK and Europe ask for the same thing. But what happens is once I do what I do, then they appreciate it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because for me, it's a situation where if you're just playing music, then what makes me different from the Pandora playlist?
Right.
And truthfully, the Pandora playlist and the Spotify playlist way better than the mix I get from the station anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because there's something new on it at some point in time. Right. So if I'm going to come onto your thing and all I'm going to be hearing is a playlist or just somebody I mix every now and then them giving them drop with them station ID, then I might as well go to Spotify.
Yeah.
I get some cool stuff.
And I think more than half of the 30 plus radio stations in Jamaica do exactly that. Mm-hmm. Because, I typically rent a car when I go to Jamaica and I'm driving all over the island. Mm-hmm. So on any given day, I'm driving for like 2 hours going and 2 hours coming back. Mm-hmm. And I'll be on one station for 40 minutes and I might hear somebody talk one time in those 40 minutes. I hear a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You know, so
And this is not one radio station. This is like everybody.
Right.
In a place where there's 30-something radio stations now.
Yeah. And most of them are doing that. And to me, there are only a few good ones. So there's a greater quantity, but the quality has diminished so badly. Because when you just had RJR, JBC, and IRI FM, the radio personalities, you had the best of the best because there were only so few positions available.
Right.
No, everybody on them granny can be on the radio. You know.
God save the Queen. you know, it's amazing. The other thing that they'll do pretty much is this: they'll say the programs that have content, they'll put it in the nighttime.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Now let me tell you a classic story.
Yeah.
You know, in the early 2000s, from 2003 to 2006, I was doing a program at a radio station in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Big up Allentown.
Allentown, Pennsylvania, WMUH.
Woman.
And there was a country music program on the station because it's a community station, non-commercial. And there was a country music station, a country music program on that station in the middle of the afternoon, drive time,
Right.
from 4 to 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And the local country station figured out that during that spot, their listenership is way down. And they're trying to figure out why.
Right.
And you know what they did? They poached this guy from WMUH
To bring over to the
to bring over to the commercial station to give him his own show and put him on at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right. To get so that they wouldn't have a competition at that time of day.
Right. So instead of putting him in prime time on their station where they know he has the listeners because he's taking all of theirs.
Right.
You take the quality program and you hide him at nighttime.
That's no different from record labels when record labels was sign an artist to shelf them. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like if they have an artist coming out and there's another artist down there that might be a competition, they sign the artist and shelf them.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing. And I don't get it when it comes to radio, there's no creativity. Nothing is unique. There's no radio station right now that you can say, okay, that station is known for this.
Yeah.
Or that station is known for this.
Right.
Radio, I say to people this all the time, I still think radio is very important. I think radio is very impactful.
I agree.
I think radio has been misused. You know what I mean?
I agree with all of the above.
So I think it's thoroughly been misused. And then now when it comes to, again, radio and getting stuff out there, right? You have radio. Half the problem too is who runs stuff. And that's the reason why I'm a believer in hierarchy. And I always feel like you got to have your CEO. You got to have your middleman, your management, your middle management, and whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
The problem a lot of times is when you only have one thing going on. So if you got a guy that believes in only one thing, there's nothing in between there.
Right.
That's going to buffer that and tailor that, or nobody that they trust and say, you know something, let's try this, let's do this, let's do that. Because a lot of people who are at the top of the chain right now probably is just the guy that used to be at the bottom, and somehow, some way, he made his way up.
Yeah.
So he still has the mentality and the mindset, and he's taken there. And now that's what he's putting onto everybody.
Yeah, right.
So right now you have people running radio stations that we're talking about getting people from the club and putting them in radio stations. Right now you got radio stations being ran by the dude from the club.
Yeah. And you know, honestly, that's something I've looked at also, and I've asked the question. Some industry people can tell you because I've asked it. How do these people get these jobs? Because I know I can refer them to 10 people that's more qualified than.
Amen. All I can say is amen.
As a matter of fact, I can do the job better. And it's not that I think I'm the type of person that's necessarily fit for that position.
Right.
But I feel I can do better than, how do these people get these jobs? You know, even the executives in the record companies sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, who's making these decisions? Like,
Yeah. I think the worst thing and the most dangerous thing that can happen to anybody, to mankind and as a whole, is anybody becoming successful at doing something the wrong way. And you have many people, and success is relative. And when I say success, I mean maybe financially successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing something the wrong way and they've achieved some level of success, you can't tell them nothing. The right way is now out the window.
And you know what? I've heard Mr. Vegas make that argument about the same thing we were referring to earlier in terms of the direction that the dancehall beats have gone into over the last several years. And, you know, it made me think. I said, you know, I think he's onto something here. You know, he was saying that the current type of beats we have in dancehall was brought on by Vybz Kartel and the great success he's had. So when there's success, everybody jumps on that bandwagon. And so Vybz Kartel was, you know, started doing his songs on those kind of beats, and he took off, so everybody followed suit. But the point Mr. Vegas was making, those beats fit the style of Vybz Kartel.
Yeah.
But everybody else that's jumping on it don't really.
And that's the reason why I always feel like this. Statistics and analytics are the most important thing in anything, even in your household. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you did the stats, run the stats and the analytics, who else that did it has had the success that Vybz Kartel had? None of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So pretty much you see him do something and you all tried it, but it hasn't worked.
And I think we've taken several steps backwards because we've had those who have paved the foundation from the 60s until now. You know, we've had the Millie Smalls and the Desmond Deckers and the Jimmy Cliffs and those people from the 60s who were having international success to put our music on the map. And it progressed until we've had the Black Uhurus within the first Grammy. We've had the Yellow Mans, and we've had the Shabba Ranks back-to-back Grammys with the dancehall albums.
Yep.
And I think we're like doing a 360 right now.
Yeah, because
we're undoing what
was done.
What it has taken 40 years to do.
You are so right. See, the thing is, it's almost like you know, people were climbing, like Naomi Cohen's song says, climbing, and it just stopped. You know what I mean? It just stopped. And even when it comes to dancehall, people ask me a question about the dancehall stuff all the time. When it comes to the dancehall music, I think half the issue with the dancehall music nowadays is that you can't dance to it. You know what I'm saying? Dancehall music was
and
a
that's
music
why it's
where,
called that.
That's why it's called. You know what I mean? They play it in the dancehall and people go dance to it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right now, if you hear a dancehall song come out today, you say by the time the beat connect with you and say, "Oh snap, see, I'm gonna start move," the melody changes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
The beat changes.
Yeah.
It's like you can't have a consistent rhythm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that, of course, is coming also from the whole taking stuff from hip hop. Now, I am a firm believer that evolution does take its course.
Oh, it does.
Because
certainly.
every music that we love evolved from something else, but it never
correct.
lost what it was. You know, in order for reggae to come about, it doesn't mean that we erased Rocksteady and them. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
But right about now, it seems to me that the move is to replace the dancehall music. You know, because most people who say, it's like back in the day, if you realize, you know, most of the songs that we consider dancehall back then would be reggae today, you know.
And that's a point I make all the time. When you look at the era, I credit Sugar Minott and Barrington Levy as being the two people who have the most to do with the evolution of what we now call dancehall.
Dancehall, yeah.
You know,
why there's a Mr. Vegas can't say my dancehall artist because of people like those.
Yeah. I think those are, you know, two very important figures in terms of the foundation of dancehall. I would credit Sugar Minott as having the first, what could be considered the first dancehall album.
Right.
Live Loving.
Right.
The concept was use classic Studio One rhythms and put new songs over them. That was never done before.
Right.
And that's how it was done in the dancehall. You flip over the record, you play the B-side,
the version,
and you sing on it. Sugar Minott took that to the studio and made a whole album that way.
Right.
Then came Barrington Levy, who started doing that consistently, and he exploded on the scene. And then the whole thing just took off. And back then, what was considered dancehall then is actually rubber dub.
Yeah.
Ika Mouse, what do them?
Yeah.
You know,
rubber
that
dub
was dancehall.
Yeah.
It was rubber dub, but back then
it was
dancehall. But because of the Sing J style, it was stigma, and you know, certain factions of the population didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're labeled dancehall, you know.
Yeah. Big up yourself, Richie. Thank you so much for joining the party. Clive says in Japan, radio is slowly being eliminated. And is that radio as in radio, the physical entity, or radio, the business of radio? Because the music has to get out there somehow, some way, right? And at the end of the day, if I am to not have radio, right, then it means I'm going to have to go research. Because here's what radio is to me. Radio is Marlon doing the work, all the work, putting it on air, and I hear your work and then decide what I want to go get.
There you go.
That's what radio is, right?
That's what I did, you know, back in the day.
Right.
You know, when I was a teenager.
Right.
I used to, growing up in New York City in the 80s, from, you know, the second half of the 80s. The only time you heard reggae music on the radio was at nighttime, starting at 11 p.m. when Gil Bailey signed on,
Right.
until 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And on weekends, we had WLIB.
Right. Right. Right.
And that's how I knew what I wanted to purchase. So based on what I heard on the radio, mentally I made a list of the records that I was going to go to the record store and ask for, because I can't buy all the records I wanted.
Right,
so
right.
mentally I made a list of the ones I wanted the most and went and buy it.
Right. And that's the purpose of radio.
That's the purpose of radio.
Right now, if they do away with radio, like what Clive is saying is going on in Japan, if they do away with radio, then I got to go do that work myself.
Yeah.
Or I guess go on Pandora or go on Spotify.
Create your station or your playlist.
And they do mix up the stuff for you. Like my album. My album is categorized with the Hawaiian type reggae and stuff like that. So if you put in like G. Cole Ocho Rios, you get a lot of the Hawaiian stuff too.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind, because what happens pretty much is it allows me to listen to something else, something that sounds different.
Yeah.
Right now, I prefer listening. I'm not telling a lie. I have to cherry pick my artists from Jamaica. So right now, the major suspects, the Proteges, the Chronics, the Jesse Royals, the Dre Allens, them kind of people.
Yeah.
They're normally consistent and you can rely on them for some quality music, right?
Yeah.
But to build up the rest of my catalog, because the music that I listen to, because I love music, I have to search elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because I gotta go to some Cali artists. I gotta go to some Hawaii artists. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I gotta get some artists from Europe too.
Yeah.
To build that up, because it's not a situation where I can just say, you know something, because if I rely on 100% of my music from Jamaica, then about 65-70% of it is gonna be trash.
Yeah. And the thing also too, and we hear this argument about the culture vultures and they might take away thing, but we're no longer doing it.
Right.
You know who one of my favorite reggae artists is today?
Oh,
Gentleman.
That's been my favorite. I tell you, that's been my favorite artist for the last 10 years. Honestly, since the album Confidence.
Yeah.
Actually, Journey to Jah.
Journey to Jah.
From Journey to Jah.
There we go.
That was my favorite artist.
There we go.
To the point where I was looking to that area for more artists. That's how I came. Ziggy Ricardo. You know what I'm saying? I came, but he never gave me a consistent kind of vibe like Gentleman. But I loved the music Gentleman put out. But he's doing authentic reggae still and dancehall music.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But people just question what it is just because of the fact that he's not from Jamaica. And to the point now where I don't think they question it anymore.
Yeah.
They'll question somebody else.
Yeah.
But they're not going to question Gentleman.
Yeah, because he's done it consistently.
Yeah.
Enough. They might not like it, but you can't deny what he's done.
Yeah. And they like the music. They just don't like what's
the
going on.
fact that he's
Yep. So it is what it is. Thank you so much, Clive. We're creating a change in radio. That's the goal, because I do think
that's the whole idea.
That's the idea. I think that radio is very important. The problem with here's another reason why I love radio, because it has restrictions.
Yeah.
If radio goes, so does the restrictions.
Yeah.
Which means there is no control, no QA as to what's going into people's ears. And when I say people, the name of the youth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's primarily what my concern is more than anything else.
If you remember Howard Stern, and Howard Stern would do all these risque things on radio and cause a big ruckus and the censorship people and blah. And when satellite radio came in, he was gone. First opportunity.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You know, and I think internet radio has a lot of the presenters have gone that direction. It's like, hey, we're free up now.
Yeah. No rules. Let's do this.
We can't play the uncensored tunes.
Yeah. BT After Dark.
And losing the idea that you don't know who's out there listening.
Yeah.
You know, a grandmother could be listening.
Yeah.
Someone could be there with their 5-year-old, their 8-year-old. And people are not thinking along those lines. I thought we're free up.
Do whatever I want to do. Whatever. There's a radio station that I kind of had to part because they had it was uncut is what they called it, right? So I was on 2 hours, right? Everything before me and everything after me was raw and uncensored. So if somebody was expecting to come on and hear me, let's for argument's sake say at 6 o'clock, and they turned on at 5:55. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They might hear some stuff that they'll be like, whoa, I gotta get off of here because you know what I mean. So it kind of I didn't like it because I thought it was hurtful to me.
Yeah.
As well as if somebody was listening to me. No, you got to time the thing like a double Dutch, like a Chinese kick.
Because, you know, actually, I have learned that I picked up a lot of listeners that way. They were tuning in to hear people that come on after me, but pick up maybe the last 10 minutes of my show and say, wait a minute, this is good, you know?
That's happened to me on South Florida radio. There's a lot of people who, because they didn't know me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They knew the people before, they knew the people after. You know, so and that's how you're absolutely right. That's how I got a lot of my listeners from local radio.
Yeah.
And people can't tell me that radio doesn't have an impact because right now, when I go out in the streets, not everybody that I know from live feeds.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I've been in a venue before and somebody say, "Yo, I know that voice.
Yeah.
Are you on the radio?" Which ultimately means he hasn't been watching.
Yeah.
It's radio still.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me radio doesn't have its impact. And the reason why I know radio has its impact is because radio stations have increased by almost 80% in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I've been kind of tracking that myself. Yeah.
So if radio wasn't as effective on doing what it was supposed to do, and I'm not talking about internet radio, I'm talking about real radio.
Yeah.
Because even in South Florida,
if you remember 10, 15 years ago, radio was supposed to be extinct by now. That was the argument.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Clive, music and personal communication. That's now in the politics. We got 2 minutes at the top. Marlon.
Yes, sir.
We could do this all day.
We could do this from all night till daylight, as the late Jacob Miller would say.
I feel like what I got to do is probably have you come on once a week or something, or once a month or something, just with what's going on. I heard something the other day. I saw a video from Ricky Chupa.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if you saw it, but there was, I guess the government of Jamaica was giving some award to David Radigan. Right? And he was livid because he's saying David Radigan is not deserving of this award and started mentioning a bunch of names that should get awarded. Right? My outlook on the whole thing pretty much is this. I think David Radigan has done a lot for the music. I don't care what anybody says.
I concur.
I think he's done a lot because what David Radigan did is he's in a place where the music wasn't.
Yeah.
Didn't have a strong hold.
There you go.
And he is the face. It's like infiltration. A lot of time, if you can't get in a room, you need a room, you know. You know what I'm saying?
Hey.
So he went and he did that. So, and he's had a tremendous effect, and he's made, I don't care what nobody said, he's made a commercial, viable genre out of this music in certain places that it wasn't being absorbed like that
Absolutely.
before. Now, it doesn't mean that the guys that you're talking about haven't contributed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But whether their contributions, however great, however not great, doesn't have anything to do with the contributions that David Radigan did.
Correct.
So if you are mad that the government didn't honor the people who you want to be honored, that's one argument. Take that up with them.
Yeah.
But my issue pretty much was, why is it that you feel like Radigan doesn't deserve an honor? No, don't get me wrong. I think your government does have some issues if they're honoring him and they haven't honored anybody else. So that's a problem in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And
but
I agree with
why
both
are you
points.
coming for Radigan? Is the part I did not get.
Yeah. And we see that a lot. When it's not one of us, so to speak, we see a lot of the fight thing. And,
Unnecessary.
people feel threatened. And I think that's a lot of what's going on.
Yeah.
People feel threatened. And a lot of times, these people are not willing to do what's, let's say, a David Rodigan. I've seen selectors playing against David Rodigan and then come out and say, boy, I think I'm boring him, man, because he might play rubber dub and he want to play the artist dancehall too.
Yeah.
And I've seen Jamaicans say that.
Yeah. A lot. You know what I think gives David Rodigan the edge over most people, and a lot of foundation selectors, a lot of foundation DJs, a lot of people have contributed. They didn't contribute to a lot, you know. They contributed. Because I think that's the issue a lot of times, you know. Somebody contributed. It doesn't mean that they contributed a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's almost like folklore and hood classics versus real commercial success. You know, you look at that person in the front, that brother there, him, played on such and such a sound, and him bust that the artist there. Okay, cool. But how exactly did that contribute to the culture that is more impactful than what a Rodigan has done? It's two totally different things, you know?
Yeah.
But you can't deny the man from what he has done.
You can't deny it.
What?
And let me say this here now that we're talking about Rodigan. Rodigan has been an influence on me.
Right.
You know, he's one of those people that I look up to as a radio personality. And I try to bring a lot of what he brings to the table.
Right.
Because of what he has meant to me.
Right.
Because he doesn't just play the music. He tells you about the music. And that's what I have always wanted.
Right.
And that's what I want to do as well.
I think what we appreciate about a David Rodigan, more than that most of those people don't appreciate, is I think they're thinking about what he does in the dance hall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which, when the clash them, so obviously he's not doing thing. You know what I'm saying? So he's doing what he's supposed to do. But I am talking about what he has done overall.
Yeah.
So what some of these people are talking about, and I think that's the reason why he's probably being honored, because it's an overall contribution.
Absolutely. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, you may have contributed in the dance hall, but what Rodigan has done in the dance hall is also what he has done on radio.
Yeah.
And what I credit Rodigan with more than majority of the people who will say otherwise, including most of them selected it, Rodigan love the music more than they do. It's a hustle for them.
Yeah.
It's been their bread and butter. I now say them no love them love dancehall because it's a fun job, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
It's working at a strip club. You know what I mean? They might have the
yeah.
perks. But the thing is, it's not necessarily a passion of theirs. If they were rich before they got into dancehall, they probably would never stayed in dancehall.
Great point.
I'm just saying.
Great point.
Clive, it's great for tourism. Rodigan is influencing music. You're absolutely right. Listen, we're gonna have this conference. We have to go pick this up another time. You know? We have to go pick this up another time. We're seeing it. Greetings. Thank you so very much. Cat Eye, I want to realize her granny did young and she used to battle one time. I got you. Oh,
True thing.
Listen, Marlon.
Yes,
thank you so
sir.
much for passing through, sir.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Brother. Oh man, the intent was, and she ain't gone, you know.
Wow.
So I just want to say thanks. And of course, I want to thank all these people that are logged in. We're going to set up a schedule. We got to have you come back in here one of these days and we're going to chop it up. We're going to talk about this music one more time. I, of course, got to do the shameless plug. And of course, there's a brand spanking new single out right about now. It's G Code. It's called This Thing Called Reggae Music. And I'm going to end with that one. All right? Keep it moving. Keep it grooving. It is Homegrown. Bang, bang, bang. Say, whoa, na, 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 na. Love the little vibes in a star. I'm hooked on this thing called reggae music. Whoa. Have been for a very long time. Since the very first time I used it. Whoa. It's taken over my mind. Ain't a single thing that I can say. And ain't nothing else I can do. Said, whoa, I know you're loving this feeling. Whoa, and I'm really loving it too. Hey, the Almighty sent me this blessing. Whoa, it's really helping me live. Say, who am I to be missing? Yes,
this feeling reggae can give. I'm hooked on this thing called reggae music. Whoa, oh, oh. Have been for a very long time. Since the very first time I used